Soon. All right. Welcome back to my spiritual experience with your host, Brother Sadiq. Today we have a new guest in the house. This is a long friend. We've been friends for probably longer than most of my friends, maybe 20 years even. The story behind this is she is the queen of one of my good friends. Her name is Empress Shirley Tafari. And so if you've heard that name, that's a Nebanon, that is her husband, her king. And so we are introducing today our Empress here, Shirley Tafari, and welcome to my spiritual experience, young lady.
Greetings, Brother Sadiq. So happy to share and to grow and to learn as a spiritual being that we all are.
Yeah, I am so glad for you to be here because the experience I think that people take from watching these videos is one that advances them one way or another. It redirects their thinking, gives them other options to look at in relation to spirit, recognizing that we are all spirit. And you know, the whole idea of this show is to share the commonality of spirituality, so we can kind of bring it out of the closet and make people less spooky about it. You know what I mean?
I so agree with that, Brother Sadiq. And yes, even though I am a Rastafari queen and empress, I enjoy spirituality expressed in experience and experience. Uh, in various modalities. So that is something that really attracted me to my king man was his adaptability to be able to express and cultivate in various modalities, not only, in the Rastafari movement, but in the Ifa movement, in the Afro-Brazilian way of culture and being. There is so many different expressions of spirit that is particular and germane to a particular group of people in a particular group of society that has a cultural and spiritual makeup. So there, in the word it says, in my house there are many mansions." So that gives us the opportunity to express and experience Jah Rastafari, or how Buddha or Allah, all these different expressions or experiences of the Most High, because we are that flame, we are that internal light that is expressed, experienced in so many wonderful, wonderful ways. And I'm just so happy to share.
Yeah, and I am so glad you are here to do that. I appreciate that initial thought because I don't want to get off track from the beginning, but that was a conversation I was having just before we got on here, so I feel like that's spirit, right? So I feel like it's something we kind of got to bring up now that you've brought it up again. So it's like you're getting tapped on the shoulder. But that is exactly what I was just talking about with my older brother. He's from Memphis, and we were talking about the personal. Of course, spirituality is always intimate and it's very personal, and so its expression can be as varied as the people who are on the planet.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
as we grow and experience the Almighty in a richer and more alive way for each and every one of us, then our outward expression, then manifests into something even more expansive, just like the planet Jupiter. The expansive nature of the universe forces us to examine, because what I've noticed in my walk is that as I cultivate on a daily basis, and embrace the true essence of the Almighty in terms of character traits and embody that with inside myself, because I'm accepting a truth that is transcendent of the truth that I had the day before.
Yes, yes. That is about constant growth, like a plan or the expansion of the universe. And that is the possibility of our souls. But let us not get too esoteric from the very beginning. This is wonderful and I'm excited about it. But let me start where I generally start with most of my guests so we can give a frame of reference. Where it sounds very varied. I mean, your expression, your explanations of spirit is, it's refreshing. I really am enjoying it. But I really do wonder where it started. Where's your first initial understanding of spirituality outside of the mundane, everyday walk of life?
Well, that really all starts back in childhood with my mom. My mom is, she came to this country and as a Trinidadian young lady, and had a prayer on her heart that she wanted a child, despite what everybody told her, the doctors, everybody told her about her ability to produce a child, her ability to be a channel, a vessel for a being. And she was told that she was barren and she was not able to conceive. But she told me every time she went to bed, she prayed to the Almighty. She prayed to God for a child. And here I am.
Very blessed, very blessed. And your awareness of spirit, did you come with awareness, or was there an experience that let you know that there was spirituality in existence outside of going to school and watching cartoons?
Well, because my mom cultivated me at a young age to pray, she gave me that example of going to bed and praying. And she sat with my sister and I about prayer. That was my first experience, my mom teaching me the power of prayer. And so I remember as a child, two experiences of remembering my mom we had a routine of saying our prayers before going to bed. And then I just could really vividly visualize my mom like every night, just like, please, God, please, may I, may I have a child? I really want a child. And, earnestly giving out our heart and soul and trusting and 100% trusting.
Mhm.
And so I use those principles to my own experience as a child when my hamster got lost in the dead of winter. And so we had two hamsters. One was called Cutie Pie. Mine was Cutie Pie. My sister's hamster was Energizer. And they
Cool.
used to get out of the cage sometimes. And my mom would have a habit of like putting the hamsters back in the cage in the middle of the night. But this winter was like Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It gets cold in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So it was a winter night and our hamsters were gone for days. We had not seen these hamsters. My mom was like, I don't know, Shirley, they could have just, crawled under something in the kitchen and just passed forward. I don't know what to tell you. And I was like, no, I don't accept that as my reality. And so I went to bed that night and prayed that Cutie Pie and Energizer would climb up the stairs and go up in my mom's room and wake her up. And that's exactly what happened the next day.
How old were you when this miracle took place?
Um, I believe I was around, it must have been maybe 7, 8 years old. There was a second experience. I'm not sure which one came first, but I'm into the trendy little, girly kind of things, and I like
Hold
to
on, hold on,
write.
hold on.
Huh?
Before you hold on, I have to ask a question.
Hmm.
What was your mom's reaction when the two hamsters showed up in her room? I'm sure she probably didn't know the exact details of every word of your prayer, but the fact that they showed up in her room after days, what was her reaction?
I mean, it was a common experience that Cutie Pie and Energizer would show up in the middle of the night. And so she told me that they climbed up her curtain and woke her up. And so she immediately got up. And I think this was really actually kind of like a common experience that happened with the hamsters, but the fact that the hamsters were gone like 3 to 4 days
Yeah,
is an unusual experience.
yeah, we call that auspicious.
Yeah. So she was just like, oh, I don't even know if I told her that I had prayed it the night before or not. I don't even remember having that conversation with her. But I just was like, oh, okay, there's something to this. You pray at night. I already knew that that was what my mom did. She prayed at night. I could visually see her in the bed praying, every night with her head on her pillow, um, saying her prayers and then drifting to sleep peacefully, knowing that it is so. And then I manifested. So, that's how, as a child, I felt like, oh, well, this is how you do things. And now that I'm an adult, and then I go to the Babalawo and Ianifa in the Yoruba faith, and they tell me that, my particular slant is, manifestation through prayer, and that's
Hmm.
how I easily can manifest, then everything aligns so perfectly because there it's written in paper and everything like that. So,
That sounds wonderful. So let me ask you, your mom sounds like an excellent teacher and a perfect example for you as a soul. But I wonder, and I'm sure my guests probably wonder, what was your mom's religious or spiritual base coming from another country?
she grew up in Trinidad. From what I understand, is she grew up in the Catholic Church or the Catholic tradition.
Okay.
Um, she would tell us about, when she married my dad, she found out that there was a minister in the family, so she had decided that we were gonna our first experience of church was the Church of God. I think it was Church of Christ. Yeah, it was Church of Christ because she called up my uncle who was a preacher man, and so he had a Church of Christ, so of course he's going to recommend the Church of Christ. But my experience of that was, well, two-sided coin. One was I loved the summer camp, the Christian summer camp they had for kids. We
Right.
sing songs, we had plays, we had crafts. It was so much fun. And I also vividly remember playing games in the church. I don't know if it was basement, games with people like with chairs and having fun. But I also have an experience of old ladies trying to kiss me that I did not feel comfortable with at the church. And I think having some kind of conversation with my mom, like, Mom, I don't want all these people kissing up on me. Like, so that was kind of like, yeah. But she didn't say anything about her experience of spirituality in the Rastafari tradition. I mean, in any kind of tradition other than I knew she grew up Catholic, and that from what I understand, she was very vague about her background, but she said that when she got baptized, her name was Maria Maria, but she never used that, middle name or anything. So.
Hmm. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but I was just curious as to your mom's background, as to her depth of prayer that brought you into the world, and almost seems it was a transfer of energy, that you had a consciousness of prayer that most children don't seem to have at that age.
Yes, I also remember, yeah, so I had the early experience of the church, and feeling very comfortable in that environment, really feeling very comfortable. I
Good.
can even remember in college people making fun of me because all my activities were centered around church. It was the Christian church. It was a universal church, or at least non-denominational. I've had different experiences, starting with the Church in Christ, and then uh, starting more toward more universal churches or more non-denominational churches too. When my King Man introduced me to the Rastafari movement, um, back about 25 to 27 years ago, that experience of Nyabingi ceremony and drumming and chanting and the I consciousness of creation and the oneness and the naturality of creation became more of when the structural place and building didn't need a scaffold anymore.
Explain.
Well, as the way I was taught or experienced the Rastafari movement is, my body is my temple. That's what the word says in the Bible, that my body is my temple. So
Hmm.
I don't need a churchical building to experience church. I don't need a building to experience sanctuary.
Hmm.
I
Yes.
am my body, my structure is a sanctuary.
Yes, I agree 100%. That's funny. Not really funny, but it's kind of what they would call new age thought.
And it's an old age, a very old age um experience, all this new age mumbo jumbo, and trying to rape our ancestors with from stealing and conniving and all that kind of stuff, and to including cultural misappropriation. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, but truth always prevails.
Yes.
Even in the Falun Gong movement of, the practice of focusing on truth, benevolence, and forbearance as the spiritual principles of a ways of being. We must embody what we are to be. That's the part that I find that the Christian movement does not advocate well enough about, is the embodiment of Christ, the embodiment of submission, the embodiment of peace and serenity. Be that, be abundant, be all those things that Christ, Buddha, Allah, all these different leaders, all these different spiritual um examples are paths to submission. Help us to embody it. We must experience it. We must experience it. We must be it in order to live it, in order to have it, and be that light.
Yeah. So these are things that I have probably not worded so eloquently in the sense that as I've moved through my travels and my experiences in religion, um, I have learned that many people take religion in its original structured sense. And those who are really looking for their connection to spirit and to God tend to move through religions in some ways, finding the parts that are particular to their soul's adventure.
Well, yes, but what I find is religions, like what Anebana teaches, religion is the scaffold, it's the structure, it's what we say Bible basic instructions before leaving Earth,
Yeah.
right? So in the Kemetic uh, ways of being, in terms of African cultivation and practices, there are 42 different laws,
Mhm.
not just 10.
Yes. Yes.
So, like I'm saying, there's other higher realms, other ways of being, and I am just finding that really after me starting to get into my elder years, I am experiencing that, my goodness, I haven't even touched the surface.
What do they say? They say it's Erica Badu's song. She said, "The man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all." Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, when you take the common knowledge that the universe is expanding and that knowledge and information are continuously being produced, then of course, our continuous search for information and knowledge and things that are pertinent to our own life experience, I think, is what comes in our elder years. We become more focused and we realize what is important and what is not important and where to spend that energy and time.
Yes, and what is particularly important to me right now in my spiritual development is the application of faith. The 100%, I trust you, Jah. You got my back no matter what situation, what season, whatever come that may kind of situation. I'm free because I'm experiencing that 100% trust and applying it on a consistent second to second, millisecond to millisecond opportunity to say yes to the call.
Yes.
That is it's great because in my past time, I was like, okay, I can apply it here. Okay, I'm wobbling here. Okay, I fell off there. Okay, let me climb myself out of this pit now. No, 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 no. Enough of that. Consistent application. And yes, I'm going to fall off. I'm not saying I'm perfect. We're not all perfect, and we'll never, ever all be perfect. Okay, and that application, but at the same time being really concerted effort until I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yes. And this is exactly where I am. So in the sense of in my meditations and in my prayers, my intention is to be an expression as full, as its full possible capabilities in my human form, to express the energy of love and of God and of light and of compassion and of abundance and of, the things that are related to the spiritual life that you know, that I am. And so I have been talking about like an orange or a lemon and how you can smell its fragrance from a distance and you're attracted to that. That is the mental concept of the spiritual energy that I intend to exude as I live life now. Right.
Yes, and we are to be real conscious of language, intend to and choose to and get to.
Yeah.
Those are real intentional. Intend to kind of implies a wobble, like I may or may not. I may or
Yes.
may
I
not.
fully
You
understand what
know? You know,
Yeah,
but like saying I get to, choose to, and 100% dive into, you know, this is the challenge, Sadiq. People are afraid to submit. They're afraid to surrender.
I agree. I think
And
that is, yeah,
so because of that, there's attachments, right? And these attachments are, oh, if I let go, I don't know, the world's going to destruct. I don't know what to say. But like, there's all these attachments about what would and would not happen if I were to let go. Okay. So people have all these attachments about letting go. When we surrender, we actually get everything.
yeah.
So there's no trick in surrendering. People think there's a trick or something that's gonna get them around the corner if they surrender, or that the next shoe is gonna drop if they submit.
We've been
And
programmed.
I'm not just talking about women submitting. I'm talking about everyone.
Oh, no, 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 no. I fully understand what you're saying. I am in that process, as you just mentioned in my wording, right? My that's what triggered your thought. And so I fully understand exactly what you're saying. Like, you don't speak in the word experience, you're saying experience, because that's the truer reality of what we're dealing with. And
Yeah.
and that is a wiser way of speaking. So I accept what you're saying fully. And I understand it. I do, and it's a thing that I have to become more conscious and aware of. In fact, it is a thing that I am more conscious and aware of.
Yes, exactly. That's it. That's
Yes,
it.
yes. Yeah, very, very good conversation and very good education. I am always one willing to learn, and I am always willing to learn from women. I have this idea that women are, or have, by God's will, by creation in itself, a higher form of access to spirit than man, because life is born through a woman. Now, I could be
Yeah.
wrong, I could be biased, I could be ignorant in that approach or perspective, but I have that. I won't deny it.
You know, there's a whole bunch of culture out there that says, women are gods, men are gods, we all are gods. We're all gods and goddesses. And so there's equality through that. And what I cite is, in order to be a man, you had to be a woman.
Hmm.
So you have already embodied submitting to the extent to be able to lead, because now you're in a position of manhood.
Well, that's probably a clarification for many. Yeah, I think that is a common spiritual perspective, though. That women, because they have the opportunity to bring life into the world, that you're being used as a vessel that is higher than my experience as a man not being able to do that.
Well, we're both men, we're both yin and yang. So it's not anything that's higher or lesser than, because you had an experience of childbirth in another lifetime before me.
Okay. I will say this. I've never much explored the idea of um other lives. I will say I had an experience, though. So it's not something that I'm, you know, uh, afraid of or abhorrent to or anything, because I've actually had a waking vision experience where I experienced my presence, my consciousness in a body that was not this physical body that I am in now. And so, definitely believing that I have obviously lived another life, because this is what the experience was showing me. And I was also a man in that life. I was also a man. I was actually still a black man, and that was curious to me. So I don't know about how they say, oh, we've been every race. I believe all of these things are quite possible. I don't have access to that level of information consistently enough to say this is the truth of that. So not
Well,
something
you know
I can't
what
really talk much about.
Abba and Eben has taught I and I is this. If you look at your strengths, okay, what you do naturally, to the point that you're not able, you don't have to consciously think of it. It just comes to you naturally, whatever that gift or talent is, to the point that it has been mastered already before you have been here.
Hmm.
If you have everybody has a talent or gift or ability that they have mastered already before. And so it comes to them naturally, just like when I was telling you about prayer for me.
Hmm.
Okay, I've gotten to a level of attainment with prayer in another lifetime that has helped me to easily manifest easily in this lifetime.
So
Okay,
yeah.
so because it comes so natural to me, that means that I didn't have to work for it, I didn't have to strive for it, I mastered it already.
Right.
So
So
that must mean that it came, like, how did I already have developed that skill without being here before?
ah, yeah. Okay. That pretty much makes it pretty clear. That's a clear understanding because that falls directly in alignment with my idea and the vision for my brother's library incorporated and the idea about the children having their natural aptitudes and natural gifts that they come here with. Right. Where do they come from? Right. So that is a very good understanding. And like you said, it's not something that you have to think hard about because that's the truth. That's a reality that we've all experienced and we understand. Like me being comfortable talking, me being comfortable public speaking. That is something I may have done in another life because most people like, I'd rather die than be on stage and speak publicly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if that's the reality of these times, then yeah, the fact that I'm more comfortable with it must mean something about, yeah, where did I get that?
Yes, and I don't specifically remember the ice chart, but that means you have Mercurian energy. That's Mercury energy, which is communication, being a messenger, being a spokesperson, or being a sound piece or a vessel for the Most High to reside in and exude out. So, so that's something that you have identified that you feel very comfortable in.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I understand and I see the alignment of what you just explained about, like I said, the previous lives. And this should be very good for those who are watching because this is a good education and to see me accepting such new information so clearly. And I'm gonna say this: I don't know if it's happening so easily because it's a woman. Because men have this, this ego thing or whatever. Like, bro, you don't teach me. You don't tell me. God teaches me directly. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I'm cool with it. I approve of it and I appreciate it. But yeah, this is very good. This is very educational, and I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it. Is there anything that you'd like to share about your spiritual experiences that you think would be very educational for women, for our community? Something that you just wanted to share?
I just want to talk about the power of Inity, the power of love, and the power of we consciousness. Because you, if it wasn't for connection, like one's connection with Abba and Nebana, I would not be here today. We would have not had this opportunity to share. So, they talk about where, two or more are gathered in his name is in his presence. And so, and how miraculous when we put our minds together, the mindset the mindset, because that's what I work. I have a background, I have a master's in counseling, I'm a certified counselor, and I help people get their mind right. When I wrapped my the theory around cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the mind, how to govern the mind, it creates a situation where it could be a great experience, an okay experience, or a crappy experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so when we're talking about spiritual experiences, we're hopefully talking about positive experiences. So, so we're talking about positive experiences that hope, that shift us, that
Yeah.
create change, that
Yeah.
create momentum if applied in one directed, consistent effort direction, that creates momentum that eventually, if there's any walls, will come trembling down.
Yes. So you talk about the mind and mindset, and I have this theory about Black Americans um, and our consistent, you know, well, I'll just go straight to it. The idea that most Black Americans of any level of consciousness live in a state of cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
You agree?
Funny. Yes.
Thank you. I'm not certified. I don't have a master's. So this is just a theory I've been kicking around for 15, 20 years. But to hear, please, please, please give it up, please.
It's funny, Sadiq, because when I was meditating about this call, I was going to talk about cognitive dissonance.
Allahu Akbar.
And this is what I was going to discuss. When we have the value system, every person has cognitive dissonance. It's not just the Black community. Everybody has cognitive dissonance. This is what it means is your values, a person's values, do not align with their behaviors, their attitudes. It doesn't align. Their behavior and their thoughts don't align because there's incongruence of the heart and mind.
Yes.
Okay. These things must align.
Yes.
So when they're aligned, like for instance, I value exercise, for instance. Say I value exercise. I value being healthy. Am I getting up every morning to exercise? Am I eating properly? Am I getting adequate sleep? Am I getting enough sunshine? Am I getting regular doctor appointments? Am I having healthy relationships? Am I eating properly? Am I getting enough? The whole
water. Yeah. Yeah.
So that means, yes, if I'm doing those things on a consistent basis and saying that's a high value for me, like being healthy is a high value for me, I would be doing behavior that aligns with that value.
Yes, I agree.
So if we're not doing behavior that aligns with being healthy, we might, I don't know, like get drunk or have crack or, I don't know, beat our wives or, I don't know, beat up the kid, So we might do behaviors that hurt ourselves and hurt other people because we don't value our mental, emotional, physical, psychological, cultural, and economical, financial health. We do damaging things to ourselves if we don't align with the whole picture of this is what's healthy for me. I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna tell the truth. That's a healthy thing. Telling the truth is a healthy thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That was one of the topics we were talking. we were talking about how to hear God on one of the conversations some time back, or recognizing God's voice, etc. And I said, well, I'm gonna be honest. One of the basic things that you have to do is just be a good person, or you have to do that. You gotta just
basic.
yeah. At the start at the we'll start at the beginning, because it seems we've forgotten to just not rob people, not lie, not nickel slick somebody for $5. Not you gotta have a flat line, good heart now, and then you can be able to trust that little voice that you hear again. Other than that, he telling you, robber, man, robber.
Precisely.
Yeah. So
just trusting oneself and feeling confident in that. That's another thing. Some people trust themselves, but they don't feel confident in it. Like I take crisis calls all throughout the week, at my 9 to 5, with people, with teenagers being so upset that their peers have said some disparaging or hurtful or insensitive remark to them, to the point that they're suicidal.
Right.
So where is it that we as a community, we as families, we as brothers and sisters and parents and school teachers and everybody else have failed our kids, that they are so upset that Johnny doesn't like them down the road, that they want to put a gun to their head?
Yeah. It's definitely a social failure from the top to the bottom. I think we've forgotten that we are even a part of nature. And so all of that we're teaching and developing within our youth and our children are somewhat related to the matrix and the worldly things that men have made. And so they have no real association to the nature of themselves and its connection to the nature of the world that they live in. And so everything is.
What? I beg to disagree.
Oh, please.
Because our children know ourselves. They came exactly from source. They came directly from source. They know who they are. It's us around them.
Yeah.
It's telling them that to not accept themselves, to not listen to themselves, to not experience whatever spiritual experience. Maybe they can see auras. Maybe they can shapeshift. Maybe they can travel time. Maybe they can, I don't know, whatever spiritual. Why are you telling your kid you're crazy? They're crazy. Why? Like, because you can't accept it? Because you can't accept your kid's power?
I fully agree with what you're saying. It's the society that we're born into, right? Like you said,
they know who they are.
But look at what I'm saying. If you're born into a society knowing who you are, and you don't have a structure to build out your creation, you're born into your family. Your mother and your father are the overarching structure. So there is the beginning of the programming. And if they're not conscious, if they're not aware, then your life becomes somewhat of a struggle to maintain this core natural light that you are when you come into a world where they say, well, you too happy too much. You need to pay attention to this. You need to look at that. You need to learn how to do this. You see what I'm saying? Because this is the structure of the world. The parents aren't aware. So they're saying this is the role that you need to fit into because this is how society is. And so I don't disagree with you at all. I think that the society, like what they say, teach the children and let them lead the way, right? But what we're teaching the children is what we've already learned, which is giving us social anxiety and depression. And
this is what I propose, Brother Sadiq. The children we can learn from, I can learn from the children. The reciprocal effect of real community.
mm-hmm.
Because that is what has been lost in us ascribing to other people's ways. Let's just put it that way. Because when we unify and say, that's my brother, that's my sister, I'm gonna treat her as if that's my mama. I'm gonna treat her if that's my daughter. I'm gonna treat that brother if that's if that's my brother, or if that's my uncle, or if that's my father. If we can relate to each other like that,
Mm-hmm.
we got a whole different paradigm. And then our children have the opportunity to truly blossom into what they were. They're going to blossom anyway, because not only that, just one thing, those kids picked each of their parents spiritually.
Yeah.
They were wise enough to know, and the Almighty wasn't wise enough to put two and two and three together, all all those puzzle pieces to create whatever situations those children needed in order to learn whatever lessons they needed to learn from those particular beings and those particular experiences, good or bad, whatever judgment it is, because there is no judgment, because that set them up spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, in all ways for them to ascend to the higher level.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree at all. I fully agree. Um, when I say the society and how things are, like the structures that we've already put in place, like the fight of the Western mentality that teaches you you're a sinner from birth, that is like a program that you have to release. And that process can take years of your life. And so these are the things that I'm talking about, like the structures that you're born into. And, like you said, they're part of the process. These are things you have to overcome. They're, lessons for the soul. So, yeah, I fully understand that. But I do feel like that there is an opportunity for us to change the paradigm by what we've learned, by what we know. And like you said, giving these children the opportunity to express what their natural gifts and aptitudes are. And then by not trying to mold them into what we think they should be, but bring those who are nurturers and protectors so that we can just watch it blossom and bloom and help feed it. So this is the actual vision for my what I'd hope is part of God's kingdom in the future, right? The way we
Yes.
teach our children, right? The way that we nurture our children and protect our children in a community where they feel, like you said, as confident as possible to be who they are. Because
Yes.
we don't know, like I said, that's actually like a heart of the idea behind my vision, is that we have no idea what the creator will bring into this world that is new, that is outside of our conscious, to say, oh, well, he's a doctor. You don't know what he's going to be. But if you put him in the right information, in the right, he may be something the world has never seen. There's no title yet. We don't know what he's bringing, but it is something for the future. It is something that will be better than what is in the past. So this is my vision.
Yes. And yes, this is everybody who embraces humanity's vision on so many levels, that we all accept one's unique. I used to work as a university college advisor, and I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to work with people of color, students of color, and I did that for many years at the various universities. And I just loved that the particular mentoring program that I worked as an academic advisor for uh, was really, really keen on accepting one's talents and gifts and experiences. And I took that and said, how do we want to apply this in a major? How do we want to help unfold this in the parameters of the college experience? you know and that was a wonderful time for me, because I'm using those same skills that I used back way 25, 30 years ago as a college advisor, to apply that to people outside of the classroom. To say, what do you envision for yourself? Do you want to go? What do you envision for yourself in terms of life as a life coach, as I'm doing services as a life coach? And what can you do even as a counselor? How can we wave that magic wand of experience, so if you don't have any problems, what would you do? Ask yourself that question. If you had no problems, what would you do with your life?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Most people look, so this is another thing that keeps coming up in conversation. And um I've been pondering this, and it's like, when I talked about wanting to express the fullness of my life energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, before I go, I want to leave it all on the field, right? I don't want to die with my song in me, right? As they say, right?
Yes.
And so the key to that, I think, the key to that, and one of the things that I think needs to be part of the zeitgeist and the consciousness is that you can never reach your fullest potential if you're not willing to express your truest nature.
Oh, that's the first step. That's the absolute first step, being genuine.
Yeah. And the thing
But
about that,
if you're not genuine, if a person is not genuine, then they're experiencing something that is not natural, that causes them pain, causes them discomfort.
anxiety.
Yes, depression,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the lies that the people are, that's all depression is, lies. Lies
Yes,
told to oneself.
yes. And this is why I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because what I say is that the reason that most of us don't express ourselves to our fullest capability or to our most comfortable expression is because what our mom will say, or what our dad will say, or what your girlfriend or your friend or your buddy or society, you have all of these other factors that you're allowing to guide who you are going to be, versus allowing spirit to just express. And if they stay, they stay. If they go, they go. If they laugh, they laugh. You know what I mean? You got to be
And
willing to
that's exactly
have
that's
that boldness.
exactly that's the letting go part I was talking about. That submission.
Yeah.
That's submission to self. That's submission to one's true dharma, spiritual purpose, which is dharma, spiritual purpose, true dharma, and true birthright, even, because there's so much to experience, and we have the opportunity. We get to most graciously, most humbly get to experience. We are the only thumbprint that I have the only Empress Shirley thumbprint.
And it will not exist again. And so it must
Exactly.
be
Like, just
fully
like
expressed.
Brother Sadiq has the only Brother
Yeah.
Sadiq
Yeah.
thumbprint.
And it has
So
to be fully
why are
expressed.
people so envious of the other person's thumbprint?
Well, this is my concern. My concern isn't even the envy. My concern is the lack of expression because of the fear of judgment, right? I want to be able to say something or give a clue or give some type of insight to the average walking Joe. Some call them the muggles. We won't go there, but about how you overcome that
What?
fear.
I think I got the answer to that, at least for me.
Please.
For me, it is knowing that God accepts me. God loves me. I don't need any validation outside of that. So I don't care what Joe said. If Joe wants to agree, that's fine. If Joe doesn't want to agree, that's fine.
Right.
Because I got self-acceptance in his imperial majesty, her imperial majesty, Queen Menon, and Selassie I. Celestia means I see you in me. That's how I define it. At least I don't know how other races express it, but that's what it means to me. I see you in me.
Mm-hmm. VINI.
Yes, that's how I express it. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any textbook definition of it, but that's how I see it. So when I can see you in me, that means I can do humane things to you. I can do loving acts to you. I can think loving thoughts about you. I can support you. I can lift you up knowing that it doesn't diminish me. And I can be happy being me too.
So I fully agree with everything you're saying. I love it. What I'm wanting, hopefully you can share a word, because this is something I consistently do, is try to, that's what this show is about, breaking people out of the like I said, the oh, it's a spiritual hierarchy. Oh, you got to be way up here, or you got to be really deep, but it's just your life. And so the lack of expression is due to your own fears and of what people, like you said, I'm from Detroit, right? Oh, if I tell people I like butterflies and I love the little white ones with the little thing on the wing, oh, this what he say, he weird. You know what I mean? So all of these social constructs that people have in their minds, I don't, I'm sure I have a few left, you know what I'm saying? But that is the process of removing these
I'm
controlling
just thinking
programs.
about, all I gotta say is I just think about Oprah Winfrey when I've people have different experiences of celebrities, but I see Oprah Winfrey as a girl that was an abused child that had enough, who gained enough self-esteem and self-love about herself to get to the position that she's in today, from a counselor point of view and from just somebody to admire. That she came from where she came from, I guess Arkansas or Mississippi or wherever, and she got to where she is from her love of God and a good, healthy dose of self-esteem.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so when she talks about you gotta, oh, she thinks she's something, you know, you gotta leave these people behind because they're gonna drag you down to the muddles. Being concerned about impressing Johnny or being in the in crowd with even the boys around the corner is not going to serve humanity in any way. Because when they see that you're happy with those butterflies and you made $1 million book about the butterfly experience, so they're all of a sudden the butterflies are on a different level for the boys around the corner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have to, what she's saying is you have to be willing to be brave enough to be yourself in any situation.
Yes, because not only that, because there's all kinds of things, there's all kinds of ways, and I grew up as the only one, the only Black girl in
Mm,
school. I
mm,
didn't have, aside from my immediate family, there were no brown people for me to interact with.
wow. I didn't know that. I think you did mention that some years back. You did mention that. I guess I did know that. I just never gauged it in the reference of your character and what I mean, your culture, the culture. You see what I'm saying? You're an expression of culture. So in my opinion, that's like, it's not something that I even would have referenced, but it's almost like, is that possibly a motivating inspiration to go deeper into the culture?
I mean, for me, I grew up always having, I didn't have the experience of, beans and, bologna sandwiches because that's all we had. No, that was not my experience. My experience with my classmates were having elevators in their homes and indoor and outdoor pools and driving to school with Ferraris. And,
Wow.
that was my experience. That was, and me, like, that was what and not to say, I came from a working class family. My mom did everything she could to make sure that, my sister and I were in a comfortable situation when it came to our upbringing. So she was in the school. So she was a school counselor. I'm not counselor, but a school guard. And my dad was a working class coal miner. But we moved to the suburbs because he had a vision that his children were going to be educated. And what he thought that community could provide for him when we were living in the inner cities of Pittsburgh, in Oakland, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was not the experience that he wanted us to have when some predator came up, scaled up the ladder into my parents' apartment, and he was like, "No, this is not the experience that my family is gonna have."
Wow.
We move into the suburbs.
Right. Right. Well, I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about the cognitive dissonance and also the full expression of self, right? Like yeah, I think that is when you look at possibly the whole of history, you can look at America, you look at society, and you can wonder, are people reaching their highest potential? Are people reaching their fullest capabilities? And the answer is sadly no, in my opinion. I'd say like 95% of us is a no. And I don't know what anyone's full potential is, but I've asked this question in a speech at a church. Most people said no, their heads went down. And some of these people were actually like famous sports figures, right? And they even
Well, have
agreed.
they really made it? Have they? They might have attained the physical, accolades, or the money in the bank and the trophies, but have they truly conquered the inside job?
Right.
The inside, the internal work, because that's where it all is. Because
Yeah.
you can have mansions and be broken in spirit.
Yes, I agree. And that's what pretty much I was at a church in Indianapolis, and I said, I was talking about NBL and the desire for our children to reach their fullest potential. And I was asking, I see what you call, like you said, professionals and successful, what we call successful people in the crowd. Like I said, there was some Pacers and it was football players and basketball players from the Pacers, and and it's one of those kind of churches where you know what I'm saying. And I said, even though we see these kinds of people in the crowd, do you think you've reached your full potential? And I'm gonna tell you, 85 to 90% of the people's heads went down. Like, the
Well,
emotions of the thought.
yeah. Because are they really living out their dream, or are they living out their parents' dream, or are they living out their wife's dream, or are they living out, is that child living out the parents' dream? So because we need to be authentically, that's the first step. That's like the first baby step. Be yourself.
Yes, I
If
agree.
you're not yourself, how can anyone accept you if you don't accept yourself?
So valuable information, because this is, like I said, I don't think that most people are consistently being themselves. You know, most.
I made a conscious decision. When was it? About 8 months ago, that
Hmm.
I was not going to pretend to be anyone I wasn't any longer.
Yeah.
And, I realized that me embracing who I totally felt like expressing and being was more refreshing to the people in my immediate surroundings and people that truly loved me They were, because I was happy, they were happy. Because they were happy, they felt more comfortable around me. Because I felt more comfortable around me myself, because I'm being my authentic being.
Yeah, yeah, and that is
And that's the surrender. That's what I'm talking about. This surrender. And this is a topic that I think really needs to be, because that's where the cognitive dissonance comes, when people are saying I value X but I'm doing Y.
well. When I mention cognitive dissonance, I of course, it expresses itself throughout society.
I can't hear you.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. I guess my
We
mic.
just we ended. I last heard you say cognitive dissonance, and then I didn't hear anymore.
Yeah, well, cognitive dissonance in the sense of um, the experience of like the black man, the black woman, and your position in, say, corporate America versus your reality at home.
Okay.
They call it code switching, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, my thoughts on that. Well, yeah, code switching is very, I remember very specifically the way my mom talked at church when we were at our Sunday monthly church dinners, our buffets or whatever they were, potlucks.
Right.
And how she talked to me, when the white ladies came around, and then how she talked after and the white ladies left. And so I was like, what's going on here? Because I'm noticing that her speech and her mannerisms are changing, like
Yeah, this is us, right? This is us. This is America. We got to do, right? That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. Yes.
yeah, so that's what I'm noticing as a child when I'm at the church function. And so I'm like, okay, what is this going on here? So, and then when I remember, because my experience was like pretty much a very, very, very white community, except for my immediate family. And then when I got to college, I was a total, complete opposite chocolate city kind of experience, because I went to university that seemed to be socially segregated. So yeah, so I know what code switching is all about, and how they perceived how I spoke, and you're talking white and all that kind of stuff like that, stuff that people go through. But yeah, it's interesting. I believe if a person believes that they're royalty everywhere, they'll experience royalty treatment.
Mm.
And so, no matter what kind of environment one is in, regardless of in the corporate structure or at home, the vibration a person feels in their heart is what gets reflected back to them.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, in terms of code switching, some people feel more comfortable in particular environments and more confident in particular environments than others.
Mm.
And because of that, they experience or externally experience or perceive that a particular environment is more comfortable than the next. So then they experience different realities, and in reality, because I've worked in all kinds of communities, and because I am so comfortable with Caucasian or perceived white people, uh, I can go into the hickest of towns and have no problems whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because my reality is that they're not a threat to me.
Right. So what do you think that contributes to the general mindset, health, overall social structuring of Black communities due to the necessity to code switch?
Um, I'm not so certain that there is a necessity to code switch. That's the beautiful part
Perceived,
about it.
the perceived.
Perceived. That's a perceived perception. You know, it's an interesting thing living with a shaman for 25 years or odd years, because a nebula is a nebula regardless of environment or situation. Because he is so confident in who he is and who he serves and how he serves, there is no code switching. Because of that, people accept him in all kinds of environments, including college environments, where he has been a guest with me amongst PhDs and all kinds of accolades. And they are talking about how wise he is.
Of course, because we're only souls, and what we're educating ourselves to is the spiritual path, which is universal to mankind, regardless of your specialty in the society as a judge or a this or that.
Yeah, so because he doesn't have a need to code switch, and he's so confident in who he is as a being in terms of being authentic and true to Jah Rastafari at every point and millisecond of his existence, people feel comfortable. When people feel comfortable, he's giving people the opportunity for other people to be themselves too.
I agree. I fully understand what you're saying. Yeah, this is more not for the higher thinking spiritual people, but for those who are maybe stepping.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I'm challenging the opportunity. I'm giving people the opportunity to think higher,
Yeah,
because this is we want to take people higher to where we're at, not dumb things down. In terms of that, what I mean is that why don't we examine why we feel we as a group of people need to code switch? Do we feel that our authentic selves are not good enough? Do we feel that we need to pretend to be somebody else or put on a mask to make ourselves feel comfortable because we don't believe that our goodness and our who we are as a being, even as a cultural group, needs to have a mask on it?
well, that is the history. I mean, that is like it got whooped into you. You are less than me, and you have some mental gymnastics to prove.
What I'm saying is I'm challenging that. I'm challenging being in a situation where we need to code mask. Because that's what I did in my company. That's what I did in terms of professionally. I decided I am no longer going to be separating who I am spiritually from who I am professionally
I agree.
to who I am personally.
I agree 100%. That's my
And because of that, that's when I got results.
okay. So, God willing, what she's saying and what you can learn from this message is that being your authentic self will bring about a transformation in your life that will make you more comfortable and the people that remain in your life more comfortable to be themselves as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Good, good. Plain man summation. As me and your king man says, something for the muggles. I know I should. That just got to sometimes. Anyway, Yeah, this was wonderful. I appreciate it. This was extremely valuable. I think this is going to be great for those who pay attention. I appreciate your sharing, your expression, your eloquent way of explaining spirit and its nuances so that people can understand it. I think this was great, and I'd love to have you back. But what I do want to do is ask you, is there like a YouTube or a thing I can link to? Is there something people can connect to you from, or is there something?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think really I'm still working on some systems things right now, but the best way is my email address, the counselor 1753 at gmail.com. I do I have a branch of helping people to step into their authentic selves by living truly genuine lives, in terms of holistic abundance and how that person particularly defines that holistic abundance.
Mhm.
So that could be defined in many different ways. If it's playing in the garden all day, or if it's golfing all day, or if it's playing with grandchildren all day, there's richness in the experience of life.
Yeah.
And so we get to choose how we live it. And I help to for people to listen to themselves, to be a sounding board so people can listen more closely internally so that they can align with what they need to do.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. I won't hold you longer, but I do like that idea. And that's kind of what I talk about when I say that, like I have a video I talk about where people are generally afraid of the silence.
Mm.
Like what happens in silence is your mind starts to kind of organize and prioritize the aspects of your life that you need to look at and deal with. And people seem to run from that versus run toward it.
Yes, and then the silence is the gift.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, like I said, this has been wonderful. I appreciate you, and I am so glad that this got to happen. And in the future, I think we should do more because if there is an idea that you think you'd like to share, you're always welcome to come on my platform and give it to the people. Um, and if there's nothing else you'd like to share, I guess we're gonna get out of here.
No, that's all I want to say, other than in Inity, there's strength and
Yes,
power.
yes, I agree
So,
100%.
and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you, YouTube, and the millions watching around the world. It has been wonderful, and I hope to see you guys again soon. This has been your Empress, Queen Shirley, and we will see you next time. All roads always lead to spirit.
Blessings.
Blessings. One love.